Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast. I'm your host, Dan Allen Movies, aka the Nolan Connoisseur, aka the man waiting for Tenet for 37 weeks straight. But guess what? We're out of lockdown. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm joined as always by the man. You love him, you hate him, you admire him, Jackson Marshall on film. How you doing?
Good, Gamash.
Oh, wow. Okay. Straight into it. Straight into the impressions, hey?
Straight into the worst Borat impression our sad listeners will have to endure for the next 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. Will this episode last longer than both Borat movies combined? Find out as we, the We Watch This Movie podcast, are going to be tackling Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. 2020 isn't the bleakest year of all time because it has given us the Borat sequel.
Jackson, it's a bit of a joke that we have a Halloween theme playing, and I don't even think we've covered a horror film in Halloween, have we? I mean, we've been a bit slack.
Well, don't be so harsh on ourselves and so harsh on our listeners. We did cover a horrific Adam Sandler outing in Hubie Halloween. And look, that even had All Hallows Eve in the title. So you can't really complain about that now, can you? But yes, faithful listeners, next year, 2021, we've got Candyman. We'll likely have another Halloween sequel. I'm sure we're going to have even more horrors, creepy crawlies, slashes, and classics planned for our next Spooktober.
I think we should... Sorry, say that again.
Can I get a rewind button first?
Sorry, I haven't quite got that sting yet. You'll have to forgive me, Jackson. But
luckily you've got 12 months to work on it.
I've looked at our reviews, and we've done one for One Cut of the Dead, which is zombies, Halloween themed, Hubie Halloween, and It Follows. So 3 out of 4 we did, or 3 out of 5 we did Buffaloed and Trial of Chicago 7 as well. So this is the 6th now, and probably doesn't fit the mold. So half of them were in the mold. But anyway, Jackson, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to you, mate. We're 37 episodes in, and it's been an absolute pleasure so far. Your insights, your amazing knowledge of movies, our camaraderie, it works. You know, we have different opinions most of the time, which is a reason why people are enjoying the podcast. We're always sort of... We don't butt heads. We have a laugh about it, don't we? We don't always agree, but that's what makes it fun. You know, if we both agreed on everything, it'd be quite a boring podcast. And we have a laugh. We have a bit of fun. 37 episodes in, and we just want to give you a clap, me and the audience. Let's hear it for Jackson.
Chenkwi, you love me. You really love me. Oh, Dan Allen Movies. I'm so grateful.
You love me. You really love me.
I'm so grateful, so thankful that you've put up with my irreverent behavior and humor and forever delaying the recording and uploading of these episodes. But you know what? I'm so glad that you have. And who would have thunk when we started this podcast 7, 8, 9 months ago, could be years, could be decades. Who really knows as we come out of this lockdown? But I'm happy to have you, buddy. We've had a lot of banter.
We start the conversation in, was it February?
February, January. Has it been 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 decades?
We're on a lighthouse somewhere.
We are lost on a lighthouse somewhere.
We need to do a theme for our YouTube side where we, a lot of you guys don't know, we do upload these to YouTube so you can see our faces. I need a scene where we're both imposed in the lighthouse. I need to get that going somewhere. But
don't you be looking at my lobster. I know you're fond of it.
Oh, far out. But no, it's been a lot of fun, Jackson.
You know what? Episode 100. Could that be a live watch along of The Lighthouse? Maybe Midsommar? Or could it even be High Life?
Oh wow, that'd be fun. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? We still got to do our top 10 movies of the year, and we've got to do our Oscar predictions. So we've got a few other quirky episodes. I don't know where they're going to fit in. Are they mainline episodes, do you think? Or do they...
Why not?
Yeah,
They could be whatever the hell we want. Look, it's Spooktober. We've had Halloween episodes coming out the wazoo, although, as you said, 4 from 6. It's not too bad. 6 uploads so far for October, and by the time, listeners, you hear this, we would have recorded even more full episodes, minisodes. It's coming out of every orifice possible. So we're just making up the rules as we go along. We want to do a top 10 as a main episode. Why not? We want to do a bottom 10 as a main episode. Why not? And where is Borat Subsequent Moviefilm going to fit when we talk about the best of 2020?
We'll find out in a short minute, but guys, I just want you to know, for all those people waiting for that review of that certain film from a certain director, the movies, we are coming out of lockdown finally here in Melbourne, slowly but surely. We've had 0 cases for the last 2 days, so theatres aren't in the plan yet, but they should be. We should get word soon, and I'm thinking in the next couple of weeks we might finally get to watch this movie, Jackson, which is incredible. It's the most hyped movie of all time for me now. Because I've waited for so long, I've had so many setbacks. We thought we were going to watch it, we weren't. He's my favourite director, as everyone knows. And even you've even said, Jackson, you're excited to see this thing because it's something we've talked about for so long, like a broken record. But we are looking forward to seeing it. So hopefully November is the month, Jackson, that we finally can see this thing.
What do you mean? No Time to Die is not coming out till next year.
I was really excited for No Time to Die, Wonder Woman. There was plenty of Quiet Place 2. They all just got pushed back. So
Are we going to get that new Bond movie on streaming? Have you heard about this story? What was the price tag?
600 mil.
Wow.
No one's going to pay that. Come on. Can I got to also touch on the box office debate we had.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'm going to fall on my sword. Look.
You're falling on your sword. 110%.
It didn't even cross 400, but look.
What was the figure you gave me? Was it 700?
It was
700. Let's have a look and see where it is right now. You're right. 341.5 million.
Now that is
faithful listeners. Go back previous episodes. I'm not going to give you a chance to talk here. Go back, listen to this guy's predictions. He said that as the master of whatever that fantasy box office app was, he'd have this spot on, and 2020 has beaten you down too.
I thought everything was going to be open. So I think it will still have legs and it'll hit 400 to 500 by the end of it all. Okay. But it probably won't hit 700 now at this point. But there's, it's COVID. So I think I get an asterisk on that. I think, I'm wrong, but I think I'm not, I think you got to cut me some slack is what I'm saying.
I believe I've been very fair. I haven't been harsh at all. You've even wrapped me into the excitement for this picture. And we haven't even said the name. Let's save it for that future episode when we finally cover Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
You've stuck to that title, haven't you? You know Seth Rogen's working on a TMNT. Anyway, what are we covering today, Jackson? Borat 2, a film that we probably didn't think we were ever going to get. Came out of nowhere. They teased it this year, didn't they? And recently, people saw him being filmed, and that's how. And then we saw a trailer, and it sort of came out of nowhere. This comedy that we sort of needed in 2020, didn't we?
For sure, this popped right out of the dark in our hardest, bleakest, darkest hour possible. This shining beacon of blue face mask mankini light has shone down from the Kazakh gulag he was imprisoned in. Borat Margaret Sagdiav is back. You said Borat 2. I said Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. What is the full title of this picture?
You're not going to make me say it, are you?
I'm not going to make you say it, but I'm going to give it a go. So, listeners, let me know if I get this right. Borat, cultural learnings of America for make benefit glorious nation of Kazakhstan. Have I got it?
I had it as delivery of prodigious bride to American regime for make benefit once glorious nation of Kazakhstan.
Right. Let me just preface the next few attempts. Take a shot every time we bugger up a word. Oh, and mark your bingo cards. Don't forget about them. Now available on our Instagram at We Watch This Podcast. Borat, gift of sexy monkey to Vice Premier Michael Pence for make benefit recently diminished nation of Kazakhstan. Borat, gift of daughter to Michael Pence for make benefit diminished nation of Kazakhstan. Borat, delivery of sexy gift to Rudy Giuliani in last-ditch attempt to save Borat from execution and make benefit diminished nation of Kazakhstan. And the final full title, as it appears on the poster, Dan Allen Movies has already done a glorious job of butchering it, so I will leave it there. How does he do it? How did Sacha Baron Cohen and his crew come up with just such gold?
I've always said it, he's one of the most creative working comedic actors alive right now. And I've talked about on the podcast before, Grimsby, which I think I recommended to people, which was his last outing. Some people think it's not as good. I really enjoyed that as well. I like a lot of his work. I just find it very funny. And even though this one is very heavily political, you could say, we're two Australian men.
It's practically a protest.
Yeah, we're two Australian men, like we always say, and we're not really involved in those politics of America. We see it from an outside glimpse. We see the headlines, whether they're true or not. So, you could call it. Could you call it this propaganda? Could you call this? It is.
I don't know about I don't believe propaganda is the right word. I don't believe this is left-leaning or democratic propaganda, or could be considered as such in the US. You could consider this as like an anti-right-wing, anti-nationalist, anti-Republican film. I suppose. You said it, though. We're hardly invested in what's going on in American politics beyond what we happen to hear on social media or in the mass media. And yes, we're going to delve into some of the more controversial sequences. Likely, listeners, if you haven't watched the movie yet, which would be very surprised, it's number 1 on IMDb, the most popular movie in the world right now. If you haven't happened to have watched it, you probably have heard of some of the craziest sequences involving one Mr. Rudy Giuliani. Dan Allen Movies.
This is going to be a blast, this one.
This is going to be an absolute blast. And you've come prepared, everyone. Dan has done his research. He's got some notes. He's going to bring us all the way back to 2006 for the first Borat movie.
Don't have any notes. That is a lie.
Before we do, how about we kick things off with a little snippet from the first trailer?
My name is Borat.
No, it's not me.
Borat, come back. Why I do this?
This is to promote your movie.
Very nice.
No, please don't do that.
Some silly Billy put green pepper on floors.
No, that's meant to be there.
Killing some of the virus.
You can't see the virus.
No, it's still there.
Point up.
Yeah.
But look at the camera as you're doing it.
Jackson, Borat subsequent film. Hit me.
I'm so glad that none of the marketing, none of the press from what I saw mentioned anything about Borat's daughter, Tutar, because Maria Bakalova was an absolute joy, a surprise, a fearless performance. She's very much the glue that holds a lot of this project together. It might not be the freshest take to include, another shot at the Edible complex, which we love to bring up here at the We Watch This Movie Cast. But if you're going to do a sequel, if you're going to do a movie in 2020, a comedy with almost like an over-the-hill actor, over-the-hill star, and Sacha Baron Cohen, similar to Keanu Reeves or Alex Winter from Bill and Ted Face the Music, why not rope along an awesome female actor? This was so funny. This was a blast. Within the first 10 minutes, Borat's Margaret Sagdiyev being freed from a Kazakh gulag. We have that hilarious reveal with what's happened to Azamat. I was like, okay, we're on. Borat's back. We didn't even know we needed him 2020, but we're so glad he's here. What did you think once we kicked off Borat subsequent movie?
It's funny. You're so passionate. You forgot the synopsis, which you've only done once before, might I add.
You can tell we're missing a couple brain cells after having watched this picture. Look, let's get stuck into it.
I really enjoyed it. I see. What are you showing me there? Have you got it down or not?
I've got it down.
You don't even care. You don't.
I wrote it from scratch. I wrote this from scratch. I'm going to read this out. Thank you so much for bringing this back, because I put a lot of time and effort in.
Go on.
Here goes. 14 years after making a movie about his journey to the USA and humiliating his native homeland of Kazakhstan in the process, Borat Margaret Sagdiyev risks life and limb when he returns to America with his young daughter, Tuta. Released from a Kazakh gulag and tasked with a desperate mission to deliver their country's Minister of Culture to President Donald Trump, the number 3 and 4 journalists in all of Kazakhstan reveal even more about the American culture, the COVID-19 pandemic, and how long Sacha Baron Cohen is willing to spend hiding inside of a bathroom to nail a joke.
Yeah, I had a lot.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. Really glad.
No, sold that. I had a lot of fun with the movie. I did not expect Borat 2 to hit a home run. I don't think it hit a home run. It did not eclipse the first one, nor did we think it would, because the first movie is such a classic. We've got a history with the film as well, the original. We were back in year 10, year 11 at school, 16, 17 years old.
16, 17 years old. Are you sure? Do you want to take another crack at how
year 9?
All this?
Year 8, year 9?
Let's set the scene, paint the picture for our listeners who aren't familiar with how old you and I
14, hold on.
Dan Allen movies.
Oh, shit, yeah.
You know who reminded me of when we first saw this?
What?
This is my mum who reminded me of when we first saw this. She took yourself, myself, and a group of our school friends to see this at the cinemas. It was restricted to audiences under the age of 15 without a parent or an adult guardian. We were 12 years old when we saw Borat in 2006.
That's fantastic. I thought it was 16 because it's such an explicit film, and it's actually really probably not for a 12-year-old, is it?
The sequel certainly isn't, and the
Wow,
original
that's fantastic.
is not for a 12-year-old. And
that's why we're so disturbing now.
Yeah,
So
she told me the
disturbed in
story that she was a little concerned going in that she wasn't going to enjoy it. She actually snuck in some alcohol. So, Mum, if you're out there, if you're listening at the tender age of 60, I'm sorry, but we've burst your bubble from 14 years ago. Anyway, she comes in and she's laughing harder than any of us, barely high school aged.
So she was in the theater with us.
She was in the theater with us. She sat the row back.
How funny.
Who brings a group of 12-year-olds to watch Borat? My mum, apparently.
Do you remember who else was with us there?
Look, the old noggin isn't working so well after enduring the AFL Grand Final, a UFC pay-per-view, and the NRL Grand Final on this weekend in Victoria. Maybe you can tell us.
Our American listeners don't even know what you just said besides UFC. Anyway, no, that's hilarious. 12 years old. Well, we've got a history. We used to recite the lines to each other at school, and we thought we were so cool doing it, and our impressions were so spot on. Yeah,
who wasn't back in 2006 and 7?
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know if it'll have that sort of hit in schools now. If people will be reciting the lines from this film, I don't think it's that sort of film. It's more political driven. It is still funny, even if you're left or right wing, I think you can still find the movie funny. But it is quite shocking, and like a lot of his films, there's a lot of shock horror, shock comedy, and that's
it's shock humor, right?
Shock humor,
and that's more so than the first one. This is like prop and shock humor. Now, I'm sorry, I've cut you off. Mark off your bingo cards. Dan, the floor's yours.
Joel Edgerton. Shock humor, where he did it with Grimsby with the elephant scene. He did it in the last Borat with how many? You could pick a scene really, and even this, there's 2 or 3 scenes that are pretty. We haven't seen them before. Let's say the dance scene is one of them, and the Rudy scene, which we'll go into in detail. But the shock comedy scenes they're not laugh out loud moments for me. It's the nuanced jokes, the like when he was with the fax guy, that whole section, I was like really laughing. That sort of stuff gets me more than the shock humor. Would I say it's as fast paced and as funny as the first one? Definitely not. I remember the first one, I was laughing, every minute. There was constant laughs. And this one, it felt like they wanted to blend more of a story in. And I've heard people say, oh, this one actually had a really good story. It was heartfelt. I didn't feel that at all. I didn't think it was heartfelt at all. But what I will say is this young actress, Maria, my God, what a performance. I know Sasha's saying, let's get her in for the Oscar. Probably, let's be realistic, she's not going to get an Oscar nomination. But
really? Who else is going to get one this year over her?
I think there's plenty of people that'll beat her. But for a first feature film, I don't know where she's from. Is it somewhere in Russia or one of those countries?
She's Bulgarian, and
Bulgarian.
she has done not only TV work but feature film work. I believe Maria Bakalova at the time of filming was about 24 years old.
Okay, I what I should have said is American feature film.
Correct.
And hopefully she gets a lot more work down here after that. She was really good. She just sort of became his daughter. You never thought she wasn't his daughter. In a role like that, it can be hard because we talked about this with I was about to say John Wick 3, Bill and Ted 3, where the daughters came in, and I thought they were a little bit tuned in, a little bit try hard. Whereas Maria played this perfectly. It was just great, and she was a lot of fun, but I wouldn't say she was all that funny in the film compared to Borat. I don't know, like some of the scenes with her and that lady in the car and stuff like that. I don't know. There wasn't much comedy there. It's like they shoot in a story. They tried to do all these little bits of shock horror, shock comedy, and these little skits and blend it into a story. That's how I felt it came together. But there's a lot to talk about, Jackson, with this film. Where do we start?
Well, for me, part of the genius of not only the first film, but here in the sequel, is how they managed to weave in a narrative. And you get the idea that they kind of picked up the pieces of the story along the way. And sure, you can question the legitimacy of some of these sequences, particularly with the professional babysitter that Borat leaves Tutar with. And then when Borat himself is locked up with Jim and Jerry. So there's some pretty hilarious jokes there. But it's like, geez, was he really locked up with these guys? I mean, they were probably there for a night, shot a whole bunch of funny sequences, when they realized that it was Sacha Baron Cohen dressed up in a costume. So, yeah, I get it. It's not as tight a picture as the first one. And
no.
Some of Sacha Baron Cohen's collaborators, like Larry Charles and Jay Roach, they didn't appear in the credits here. So who knows if they were really involved. That could have made a difference. Do all the jokes land? Not as funny as the first? I'm going to disagree with you, though, Dan Allen Movies. Maria Bakalova, for me, I thought just her keeping a straight face alongside Sacha Baron Cohen and how those two weren't constantly cracking each other up on camera must have been so hard, so difficult. I don't want to go too far into spoiler territory. We do have a cue for that a little bit later on. However, the sequence that kicked off from when those two visited the cake store and everything after that, I was dying with laughter.
The baby.
I do not know. With the baby, that's right. The baby. I don't know how they managed to pull that off. That for me was like, all right, I'm sold. If it wasn't Azamat becoming a chair, it was those two at the bakery, followed by the pro-life center. So I'm going to disagree because I thought it really hit.
Remember that all those scenes are real life people, and who knows how they actually get their consent. I always thought that they must go from the approach of this is a documentary. You need to sign this before they even start shooting in there. They get the consent.
I'm under the impression they're throwing a piece of paper and a contract in these people's faces like so just after they've filmed, right?
I would say beforehand, but maybe after, because beforehand you're a bit more safe. Whereas the stuff that they're saying and seeing, it's like if they did it after, like especially the baby scene, where it's a misunderstanding, but it's quite funny how it plays out. shoving a piece of paper to that doctor after, or whatever he was, a reverend.
He was a pastor, yeah.
Pastor, yeah. He, I'm not sure he would sign that. But you do see blurred faces in a couple of scenes, which I noticed. I don't remember seeing many blurred faces in the first one. The difference, so what I liked is they got around Borat being famous. You know, most people have seen the original film. So they dress him up in these fat suits and different costumes to get around it, which is a smart idea. And they blend it into the story, which again is smart.
But it's hardly original for Sacha Baron Cohen to do that.
No.
He doesn't have a choice, you're right. But early on, it's a bit like, oh, okay, we're just going to get him in silly outfits. Is he just going to be using silly props for the next hour and a half?
Well, he's playing a character who's playing a character. He's doing the Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. What is he playing? Tropic Thunder? An Australian playing an African American playing a something. I don't know. Anyway,
he's a white man playing a black man.
That's right. Oh, far out. But you know, it's impressive how he can get some of these things and pull them off. I tell you what, I just don't know how he does it sometimes, especially the Rudy scene, the scene with Mike Pence. I have to disagree. I think it is very, it's a very democratic movie, and especially at the end where he goes, you know, it says something about vote. It turns into a political statement by the end where he says vote or something like that after he's shown all these bad things about the Republican side or about Trump. So it definitely is politically fueled. Is that the reason he made the film? Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. And tried to blend comedy in there to get people to vote. Because I know he is a Democrat. He is voting for Biden, I would say, like a lot of the celebrities out there are. The only celebrity that I haven't seen endorse Biden is Matthew McConaughey, who's from Texas.
What about Kanye?
And Kanye, but in terms of actors, Matthew McConaughey, I remember an Australian show down here, The Project, asked him, "What did you think about Trump recently?"
Of course.
Did you see that? And he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to answer that." So that to me that says, "Oh, is he voting for Trump?" I don't know, but you know. It's all for us. It's all just entertainment from our side. We don't. Yeah, I don't know how much you look into politics over there, but anyway, yeah, I just think
it's important that we keep up, right, and that we know at least what's going on in the world. For Sacha Baron Cohen, who has already started another politically and racially charged film this year, The Trial of the Chicago 7, where he played Abby Hoffman. If he wants to take his own comedic creation, bring some joy, some laughter to people when they really need it in 2020, and take a stand, make a message, protest something he believes in, fuck it, why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, this is the #1 film in the world right now. If it was going to be at the box office, I'm sure it would be a raging success. The first one, I don't know how well it did in the box office. We'll go into that later, but...
Well, Dan Allen Movies, I'm glad you asked. I've got the figures right in front of me, so let's whack it out of the park right now. We can always cover the first Borat in its own full episode, maybe a mini-sode in the future, but $18 million budget. I'd love to hear what this movie had. Could be more, could be less, who really knows? Grossed over $262 million at the worldwide box office back in 2006. It's got to be one of the highest grossing comedies of all time. Certainly the most profitable on an $18 million budget, right?
Yeah, that's very impressive. Maybe not as impressive as our last film, 25,000 for One Cut of the Dead. And what did it make? 30 million. That's unbelievable. But, you know, it is... I can see Republicans in America not liking this film. So I just will say that because it is politically driven. But if you can get behind all that and just look at it as a movie, it is quite funny, I think. And especially for us in Australia, we just laugh. So, you know, I think him as Borat, he didn't miss a step. It's you know, even though it is 14 years later, he looked the same. It felt the same. He just brings it back. You know, this guy's an A-list actor for a reason. He can just... These characters he's created, these iconic characters, all in his mind. He just brings it back like that. I'd love to be a fly on the wall with his wife and what she thinks with all these different characters coming home. And, it'd be an interesting husband to have, wouldn't it? Far out.
Oh, certainly. Which wife are we referring to? Was it Lowell or Lunel from the first film? Or referring to one of his many wives back in Kazakhstan? You tell me.
Why was do you know why Azamat wasn't in this film? Actually, they got away with it at the start. They blended it into the narrative. But do you actually know why the actor wasn't in? Was there a reason behind that?
Blending into the narrative is putting it a little bit lightly. It was the first big shock joke we had, set the stage for everything to come. Dan Allen Movies, I have no idea. Now, shed the light on me.
No, I actually don't know. I was asking you. I mean,
Two's company, but three's a crowd.
I just remembered the joke now with the seat.
Honestly, I don't want to hit spoiler territory just yet because we've got even more to discuss. But it was such a great joke.
It wasn't as funny though. Overall, it was nowhere near as funny. Because I watched the first one again recently, probably last year, and again, lots and lots of laughs. And this was 5th, 6th viewing, so
5th or 6th. It's got to be more than that.
Probably, yeah. I'm just throwing that
just
number out of my
before we
ass,
started recording, we were sending one another videos from the first film, and you're right. Many of the sequences in Borat's first outing are far more memorable and funnier.
You know why I say that?
Yeah.
The quotes in the first one. If a movie can have that many good quotes, it's funny for a comedy. Because comedy, a lot of the time, you're reciting quotes to your friends. Whereas this movie, I don't actually have a quote in my mind. I've only seen it one time, but not one quote stands out really. Do you feel the same or not?
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with you on that. I think that the whole back and forth between Tutar and Borat when they head to that pro-life clinic, I think that word for word was absolute genius. So I can see that being recited between people. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff being thrown at the wall. Maybe some of the quotes he drops dressed up as a certain McDonald Trump could go very far when he visits the CPAC rally.
See when he goes in with those two guys, the scene where the two Republicans and they love Trump, that whole thing.
When he starts combating the virus,
that felt to me like those two were in on it.
Oh, 100%.
So that's one thing I don't have an issue with, but it's like some parts are scripted, some aren't.
Yeah.
And
don't get it wrong, Dan. We did feel a lot of those same issues with the first film. The first film had that great subplot involving Pamela Anderson after he stumbles across one of those sex tapes with all the frat boys, which the frat boys in the first movie is so memorable, and we sadly don't get anything like that here. But some of those sequences back then felt very staged.
Yeah, I don't know if much of it was staged in the first one compared to this one, especially with the lady as well in the car and the breast implants and all that. She would have been put up to this as well, I would have thought. So, because there was a lot of dialogue between those two. Maybe I'm wrong, but they're the two that stood out where it's like you're trying to push a narrative here more than the comedy, and you've got non-scripted stuff. It's not giving me the essence of what Borat should be. But anyway, I'm nitpicking, but
I suppose it's pretty hard to nail this hidden camera humor when he's such an icon. And I mean, in the first 15-20 minutes, the whole reason we said it earlier, he puts on the costume is because he's so recognizable. He's simply out in the street and people are screaming very nice, they're wanting to get photos. So I guess at least it was smartly played for laughs.
To me, it just felt too scripted, and I don't know. I still think he's one of the greatest comedians alive in terms of movies, this guy. And even acting. We saw him in Trial of Chicago. Fantastic actor. But
he's got an excellent presence and he's very charismatic.
Yeah, it's just some of those scripted moments, and there weren't as many jokes in there as well. That sort of left a little bit to be desired for me. But at the end of the day, for a comedy, I mean, this was still probably one of the best comedies of the year, easily,
Sure.
So, and you would agree, I think so. Yeah, I've heard so many different opinions though. I've been listening to different podcasts and different reviews over the last week.
Really?
And for once, and some people say it's screamingly funny. It's hilarious. It's the funniest thing they've seen all year. And then other people saying, extremely disappointed, not as funny, rubbish. So it's actually more divisive than I thought it would be. And I'm thinking, is that because we're in the middle of a political debate between these two? There's a week. I think there's a week to go now from the time of recording before
we've just had the last debate.
We've had the last debate, and I think there's a week to go before we see who the next president of the United States is. And that probably puts fuel on the fire. Over there, they're a lot more passionate about politics than us in Australia. In Australia, if you're left wing, right wing, for one, look, I could be wrong here, but it feels like to me, if you come out as a Trump supporter in America, or if you come out as Biden, sometimes people lose respect for you. That I've seen a lot of that stuff where you're wrong and they're not respectful about it. A lot of Americans, I know some aren't, but then in Australia, no one really cares.
Oh, Dan,
not as much.
I believe. Look, I think that's partly a narrative. It's going to be hard here for some of our international listeners to understand what kind of stranglehold someone like Rupert Murdoch has over the mass media in Australia. Part of the narrative that is spun is so heavily favoured and leaning into one major party within our country that the other parties barely get a go. And when I say get a go, they're obviously not looked upon with in a positive light, but even just so. One particular party, I just don't want to get too political, is so favoured that it's kind of ridiculous.
By the newspapers
because the newspapers.
Because Robert Murdoch owns 99% of the media, yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't want to go too much into details because that's not what this podcast is. This is meant to be a bit of light relief, talking about some of your favourite movies that are out right now, and that's what I stick to.
But also, like, in Australia, I don't feel like it's rude to ask someone who you're voting for. Whereas in America, they're a lot more open. That's, I could be wrong again, but that's what I'm
Americans
seeing.
are a typically proud people, though, and they're not afraid to speak their mind. Where I guess here, you're right, it is a little bit different. In saying that, if someone has a strong opinion and believes that they have a positive message to put out to people, such as Sacha Baron Cohen, he wants to go out and make a movie as mass entertainment for people to digest and sneak in some of these messages, or not so subtly, go for it. More the merrier. If this means we get an entertaining watch, we're happy.
What I'm saying is, but in Australia, it just feels like, you wouldn't ask me who I'm voting for. Whereas in America, I feel like that's more of an open conversation from what I've seen and the people I've talked to over there. And we've seen it. There's a lot of people endorsing Biden, a lot of people, on social media. It's absolutely crazy. So there's not as much excitement around politics in Australia. I don't feel like there is anyway, especially in younger demographics. Whether it's in America, it's a lot more prevalent. Go ahead.
Quick question: who are you voting for?
Yeah, exactly. So and even just like I said before, Matthew McConaughey not saying anything about Trump. Well, people think he's voting for Trump now, but he could just well be voting for Biden. He just wants to keep it to himself, So, yeah.
Hey, more power to him for doing so.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. It's fascinating to watch the last week or so in politics. I don't follow it that closely, but the last week I saw the debates and things like that.
Half a decade since one certain McDonald Trump was elected. Like, all right, you've been banging on about politics. Let's quickly consider this. Borat was filmed during the Bush era and almost like the kind of post-Iraq Bush era. 14 years later, we're now deep in the Trump era with the second Borat movie. 14 years difference, which is the worst landscape for Borat to be in when exploring the US and A?
Oh, I can't touch on that. I couldn't make an informed opinion, but
not necessarily informed, but you've said it many times. We're just two white dudes in our mid-20s here in Australia. What do you think is the worst?
I think what he's showing is that they're still very similar. That's what I got out of it. And I felt like he was saying that even though they are scripted, those Republican guys, I actually think that's what they're like in real life. That's them. They're
For
not,
sure.
Yeah. And what he's trying to say there is they're nice people, but in his mind, they've been manipulated to, not like a certain party and love Trump or whatever it was. So that's what he's trying to say. Even though these people are nice, they've been
lampooning the naivety and the politeness of some of these people. The fact that they let their guard down around who they think to be such an innocent foreigner, and then he completely takes advantage of them. It's genius.
And you sent me a message too. What was it? Flashlight. I had to laugh at that too. The Amazon package. Here's
a quote. Alexa, order three flashlights. There, I've butchered it. Give us a freaking cue.
Sorry, what cue?
It's about time. We've been talking for a while here. It's been cueless. The DJ's been out to lunch. What's happened?
I know, right? We've been banging on about politics for some reason. But no, the reason I do is because it is political. You can't deny it's politically driven comedy. I don't think you can. And especially when you bring in people like, there's a Mike Pence segment, there's a Rudy Giuliani. Is that his name? Giuliani?
Rudy Giuliani. I think you might want to try that one again. Rudy Giuliani. People, have you got your bingo cards? Dan has just messed up a name.
Can I ask, is he the mayor of New York?
I don't believe he's the mayor of New York. Don't quote me on this. He's a significant attorney and member of the Republican Party. So you might want to think of him as a bit of like a hitman for Mr. McDonald Trump.
Yeah, so... And what other subjects are there besides, politically driven stuff? It was the same with the first one. So, I don't know. It's that's the reason I think some people aren't taking a liking to it, unfortunately. It goes back to my previous points. But
yeah, you bring up how this has supposedly, I'm using air quotes for those listeners not watching us on YouTube, quotation marks, a mixed response to Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. I don't think this has had a mixed response. I think this has been fairly positive. Fans, critics, everyone's been pretty happy so far.
Really? Okay. I mean, it depends how deep you go, I guess. I might have gone a bit deeper into the reviews and comments and on Amazon Prime and IMDb and blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, it just depends where you look and what crowd you're in, really, what you're seeing. But
before we go into just how deep the review rabbit hole goes, can I get a spoiler alert?
You sure can. Spoiler alert.
What was the most offensive joke in this film? Just really lay it on us. Was it the interview with Rudy Giuliani? Was it Borat heading to a synagogue to meet Holocaust survivors? Was it Borat dressing up as Donald Trump and carrying around his daughter at the CPAC rally? I mean, Sacha Baron Cohen hiding in a bathroom for 5 hours. What is going on there?
That's insane.
How did he get out of that thing alive? How did he get out for our Rights 3 rally alive? Supposedly he was wearing a bulletproof vest.
Well, the Maria actually got into the White House as well.
I heard of this.
Posing as a journalist. Like, I think he was exposing that the sort of security isn't as good as you would think it would be for people of that sort of prevalence. But yeah, that Mike Pence scene, I didn't find it all that funny. But then again, that's because I'm not really in that hemisphere of the world. So
less funny and more handsy.
As I said, I found the other stuff a bit more funny, a bit more relevant to me. But it is quite shocking. It's still entertaining, don't get me wrong, to see him run out of freaking Donald Trump suit. He had to get up at freaking 2 a.m., put this fat suit on and put on all this makeup, go in.
Walk in wearing a Ku Klux Klan suit.
Oh, God. And how he gets away with it, man. And the funny thing is, he speaks so elegantly when you see him as him. He speaks so professionally, and he's he's a very smart guy. I've seen a bunch of interviews with him, but then, he does the press tour as Borat and stays in character the whole time, cracks jokes. I saw him interviewing other YouTubers and stuff. It's great marketing because it just makes viral videos.
Tell me off air about that press tour he's done so far.
What was I going to tell you?
Yeah, didn't you mention that he had an appearance on the Today Show?
Yeah. He had. I saw one interview with him where he was himself. He wasn't the character, and he was with Maria, and they were just talking about how he found her, and he found her. They auditioned 600 different women.
Wow.
And went and found her and her commitment, and she's in some pretty tough situations, almost scary. One in particular, you could say, but she just says, she always felt safe with Sasha, and she considers him a father figure, this and that. So they've got a great relationship. But he was just going on about what he thought of that Rudy scene. And he obviously believes that he had some ill intentions. I wanted to get your thoughts on that scene straight off the bat. What was your mind thinking, and what do you think his intentions were there?
Oh, he'd completely set this, I'd say this poor guy up, but I don't believe that's the right terminology for it. Not the most informed expert on the actions and scandals surrounding Rudy Giuliani, about the Biden family, and here or there, this or that. But the proof's in the pudding. And it's on camera. It's captured in evidence. There was something very suspicious, very fishy, very handy going on between that interview between Rudy and Tuta, Maria Bakalova's character.
So if he doesn't come in there and save her, what happens?
I don't want to know what happens. I'm sitting on the fence. I'm taking the easy road out. Call me Dan Allen because I don't want to comment.
You don't want to comment, okay? Well,
it was very uncomfortable, and it elicited a really good chuckle.
I'll tell you right now,
because I was made so uncomfortable. I love getting depraved, and that was a little full on.
I'll tell you right now, it is very well edited, and the music becomes a bit more sinister.
Yes.
Not a comedy at that point, if you didn't notice that. Also, I will say that she was very hands-on with him.
Oh, she was in control of the situation.
She was very hands-on, and I've dealt with a lot of those mics where you do actually have to bring them under your shirt and then clip them on up here.
Yeah, it's a lapel mic.
It's a lapel mic, okay? I've dealt with them 100 times, and usually
you have shot many commercials and movies and TV shows.
You let them go under. You let them do it themselves, and you can clip it on for them. Blah blah blah. I've fiddled around with mics before, but
you fiddle around with what?
It looked weird because he laid down. And remember though, this guy's like 75 years old, okay? He's not a spring chicken. So him laying down might just be he can't really move, he's old, okay? That's for one. I'm not trying to defend him here. I'm going to just lay out what I thought. So it could just be that, and he could have just been tucking his shirt back in or whatever. So, but where I'll say is he touched her on the hip, and I thought, well, that's a bit unprofessional. There was no need for that. He said yes when she said come in for a drink in the bedroom already.
Alarm bells are ringing, red flags.
Yeah,
sirens are going off.
Sorry, if I'm him, I would be saying I don't think that's appropriate. I think we're done with the interview here. I would not be going in with a 16-year-old or however old she's supposed to be in a bedroom as a political guy, 75 years old, in the limelight. So that there, is it the decision making? Did he have malice involved? I don't know, but would he? Yeah, it's a tough one, but
it's daring. It's going to overshadow the rest of the movie. You've made that pretty clear. This was part of the narrative. Borat had to go in and rescue his daughter because he realized that he wanted to be her daughter owner.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very well edited. He came out on Twitter, Rudy, and said, Sacha Baron Cohen's a stone cold liar if he thinks I had any if he thinks I did anything inappropriate, well, I'd say no. Sorry, mate, but you were inappropriate. You went in the bedroom, you touched her, on the hip. You were flirting with her the whole time. No, sorry. But then again, was he fiddling with himself? I don't think he was. I don't think he was doing anything there. I think he was just legitimately just fixing his mic and that. And
for sure. It was very creatively produced.
yeah, so... But going onto a bedroom and lying down, he didn't do himself any favors. So apparently Borat was like hiding and he was watching that whole thing, Sacha Baron Cohen. And imagine that, because this is blending reality with film here, and she is a young girl. You have to protect her. You don't want to put her in a bad position. Well, technically it already is a weird position. And that the morals on that already are a little bit iffy for me. Putting her in that position. But he came in and it was all well and good. So, and I'm sure he told her, look, nothing's going to happen. I'm here. There's camera crew everywhere. You'll be fine. Don't worry. But, it took guts from her to do that and play along with that narrative and even get into that position. So, apparently he called the cops. He called the cops straight away. As soon as that segment ended.
When you say here, you're referring to Rudy Giuliani or Sacha Baron Cohen? Okay.
Rudy, yeah. So, yeah, you can see it from both sides, but it's a very interesting scene, and it's definitely being talked about, and it's definitely politically charged once again, because this scene's coming out 1 or 2 weeks before the vote. Like, come on, there's a reason for this. He's Trump's right-hand man, I've heard. I don't know, but I don't know. Will this affect the vote? Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of people watching this film, and some people might be turned off, some swing voters. So maybe it will
this affect the vote? Does it affect the movie? You've been banging on about this, buddy.
I don't think it affects the movie for good or for bad. I still found it entertaining. And again, it's shock horror. It brings publicity to the film. That one scene now will generate how many millions of people to watch it just to see that scene, So it's smart. It's smart as well. It's politically driven. It's smart. So I've got nothing wrong with it. I found it entertaining. I found it, as weird as it sounds. I mean, it is uncomfortable to watch, and we've never really seen anything like it, but...
You want to be shocked and offended when you're going to watch a Borat film. Like, you're not signing up for daisies and flowers. Come on.
I was entertained throughout the whole thing. I wasn't bored, pretty much. I wasn't really bored at all. So, but yeah. Anyway, that scene is a funny one. That's for sure. I mean, you're playing it on the fence. I understand, but yeah, that's what I'll weigh in on with that.
I'm a cinephile. I just want to enjoy this for the movie that it is. Something like this without getting into the politics and the message and the protesting and the stand and everything that is involved.
Yeah. And yeah, I want to clarify as well that, watching the film, I'm taking that stuff in. I'm seeing the politics behind it. I'm seeing that. But at the end of the day, I just want to be entertained. I just want to laugh. I don't really care for that stuff, to be honest. So,
is that a bad thing? Should you be made to care for it? Well, it sounds like Sacha Baron Cohen would agree.
Jackson, it's my favorite segment. It's time for Jackson's ratings.
Jackson's ratings.
IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
Wow, it's very nice.
Who would have thought an hour into this recording we'd only just be getting one of our Borat cues?
Wow, it's very nice.
Can we get a third strike?
Now, if you're playing the movie on a telephone, you will never...
Hold on.
Wow, it's very nice.
I've lost the plot now.
IMDb, #1 most popular film on the website in the world today. We're currently recording 4 days since release. 7 out of 10, 7.0 out of 10 from 44,487 user ratings, and that will only continue to climb. Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter has this certified fresh, 7.15 out of 10 average rating, 200 critic reviews. 84% of critics have given this a positive review. Audience score of 74%, 3.71 average rating from a 939 ratings. So far, it's very strong. Is it at that same level as Borat, Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan? Maybe not quite. Metacritic, the score on Metacritic, Metascore of 68 from 49 critic reviews, user score of 6.1 out of 10 from 228 ratings. What do the cinephiles think over at Letterboxd? 3.4 out of 5. It's been watched by 76,455 members and liked by 20,341 of them. A lot of stats, a lot of statistics. Without further ado, Dan Allen Movies. This has been your episode, your show. You're the star, best actor, best director, editing, the whole kit and caboodle. Let's hear your final rating for Borat Subsequent Moviefilm, delivery of prodigious.
Borat 1. First Borat got an 8 out of 10, and this one is going to come in at a 7 out of 10. Tick that off the list on your bingo cards. 7 out of 10. It was a good time, not a great. It was probably the funniest film of the year for me, and it is sneaking into my top 10 of the year just at number 10, I believe, at this stage, but it probably won't be there by the end. We've still got Mank and a bunch of other films to come. I believe Mank's coming out this year, and a few other films anyway, so it'll struggle to stay in, but 7 out of 10 from me.
7 out of 10 handsy Republican interviews. It may have been just a little too uneven to creep its way into the great territory. The trial of the Chicago 7 came in at a 9 out of 10 for myself at Marshall on Film, followed by an underscore. Will that still be a 9? And will this still be a 7? The two Sacha Baron Cohen bonanza movies, when we finally get to our top 10 of the year? I don't know. One could go up, one could go down. It was a very good time. Was it a great time? Not quite as great a time as the first movie, so that's where it's going to lose points there. Although, Maria Bakalova, for me, she's up there for Best Supporting Actress. Give her a nod, give her a nom. Awesome performance. She was the glue to this film.
She might get a Golden Globe nom for comedy.
Sasha picked up the Best Actor for comedy at the Gold Globes in 2006, 2007. So why not give it to her for
Really?
Borat?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can definitely see them voting, but Oscars probably a little bit too far. So both 7s. What did you give the first Borat?
Great question, Dan. I considered this. For me, it's probably going to come in around an 8 or a 9. I'd love to save that for a future recording, so I'm not going to settle on a score just yet. I think it'd be an interesting experiment to watch these back to back, see how they really hold up and compare to one another. I know you like to be very objective, and when you give a score, it's the score for that film. Me, I kind of like to compare it. And this doesn't quite get an 8. So does the first Borat get an 8? Maybe, but it still could be a cut above.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Jackson. Before we head off today, we've got the Inferno. It's back and it's for the final round. But first, week 3, what did I get you to watch?
Dan's Inferno. The hell tour. Forget about week 3. Let's remind our listeners, and to those who are joining us for the first time, hello. What was week 1?
Week 1 was The Human Centipede 2. Week 2...
Full sequence. Full sequence. Let's get the title out of the way because we're never going to be repeating it here again. Week 2, tell our listeners what you had in store for me.
Cats 2019. And week 3...
No, I'm going to stop you. Is the pot of gold at the end of this rainbow really worth it?
I don't know. You tell yourself that. You wanted the movie challenge back. That's why. We wanted the movie challenge back where we both recommend a film for each other and have to watch it. So you're going through the Inferno to get it back?
Week 3. The movie ran for just over an hour and a half, yet it took me about 3.5 to actually endure and watch. Dan challenged myself. M. Night Shyamalan's 2010 action-adventure fantasy bomb, The Last Airbender. And I tell you what, this will be the last time I ever watch this film. If a fantasy movie, particularly an adventure movie, is meant to fill you with awe and wonder, and you just can't wait to go on this epic journey with these characters, sadly, this movie does the complete opposite. In fact, there are no characters. There's no characterization. I don't know where the problems are and where you point the finger at, but here's a couple ideas. Is it the screenplay? Is it the acting? Is it the directing? Is it the casting? Is it the plot holes? Is it the source material? Is it the visual effect? It's everything. I can't find one redeeming factor in this entire picture. Is it as bad as Cats? Is it as bad as the Human Centipede 2 full sequence? I don't know. I feel like some of these elements aren't quite as bad as that, but I have nothing positive to say. Everything is so mediocre that it drags the entire experience down.
How's Dev Patel?
Miscast, is given nothing to do. Sadly, his character is lacking any arc. For those that aren't aware, and I'm not an expert in source material, I don't even think I've ever seen an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I am familiar with that they've condensed a full season of the show, which is about 20 episodes, into 103 minutes. It doesn't work. It fails. We've got a whole bunch of narration and everyone talks in exposition just to fill in the gaps, which doesn't work. Poor Dev Patel, whatever arc his character Zuko is meant to go on, it's done. It's cooked. He's got next to no motivation. His action scenes are sorely lacking. It's just bad. It's just a bad movie. Have you seen this before?
No, never. Never seen it.
Well, fuck you. Special shout out, by the way, Rochelle at the movies. You're back getting a mention on the pod. I actually saw this with you. 10 years ago when this was at the cinemas. Dan, you again made me watch something for the second time. Human Centipede 2 and this I've seen before, and I still sat through them again.
I don't think you've seen this. You haven't seen this next one. That's for sure.
Look, do we even want to go into a final rating here? Is it worth
Yeah, go on. What did you give it? 2 or 1?
The Last Airbender, written, produced, and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, is going to come in at 2 out of 10 woeful 3D conversions.
So all 3 have been 2 out of 10. Is that right?
Cats came in at 1 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
Jellicle blunders for Jellicle bombs. That was the longest and most painful film I've watched yet out of the 3. And yes, that includes the Human Centipede too.
All right. Well, what have you got on this weekend for 2.5 hours?
Oh my gosh. Well, it'll be watching next week's movie. It'll be watching our mini-sodes. And please fill in the blanks. The 4th and final epic chapter to Dan's Inferno for Spooktober 2020 is...
Hey, you know what?
Roll, please.
Let me preface by saying some people will think, oh, this isn't that bad, Dan. You know, and I'd be one of them. Are you a fan of Mark Wahlberg?
Oh, God.
Are you a fan of Michael Bay?
Oh, no.
He's just connected the dots. That's right. It's Transformers: The Last Night. 2.5 hours long. It is the longest Transformer movie. It is a slog to get through this one. And it is a CGI fest. So I hope you're going to have fun with Transformers: The Last Night. He's walking off, everybody. Tick that on the bingo card. Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Hopkins, Josh Duhamel. I think that's how you say his name. This is just a long slog of a film, and I think I came in at a 1, 2, 3 out of 10 for this one, and I'm a big Transformer fan. Maybe a 4, but this is a shocker. So, Jackson, this is the worst Transformer movie, in my opinion.
And that's saying something.
That's saying something. It's a disaster. And I like Michael Bay. I don't mind him. Okay? But this is shocking. So, you're in for a treat, mate. Good luck.
Am I going to make it through? Am I going to be back for next week?
I don't know. I don't think you are. This is a real shocker. 2.5 hours too. I've taken it to you. Oh boy, oh boy, man! And you don't even have any of the context of the other films. You're just going in.
You might have complained about some of the movies I made you sit, but at least none of them were 2.5 hours. You have serious issues.
Hey,
have you seen this?
Yeah, I have. You put me through High Life. You put me through. What else did you put me through?
Melancholia.
I can't forgive you for that. That was a shocker. Melancholia. You put me through. Are they the only two bad ones? A couple of others, but yeah. I mean, is it worth it? You're gonna have to find out, mate. 2.5 hours. Mark Wahlberg. Can he carry you through this film? And Anthony Hopkins is in it as well.
Wow, that's a bit of spoilers. I can't wait.
Do you want to see some of the reviews here just before we head off for today? 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. The worst Transformers movie. 1 out of 10. A true disaster piece. Some scenes are literally less than 20 seconds long in succession. By the end of the first half, you'll feel dizzy trying to follow. Fantastic. Can't wait. Transformers The Last Night is the worse than Age of Extinction, which was bad. 1 out of 10. Absolute mess. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. Don't waste your time. 1 out of 10. The movie has no common sense. A steaming pile of disgustingly potent fucking garbage. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. I can't even. 1 out of 10. One of the worst films of all time. 1 out of 10. Incoherent mess. And then we got a 10 out of 10. So much fun. There you go. That could be you. That could be you.
That could be me.
You've got a glimpse of hope, Jackson. A glimmer of hope now. So,
the shining beacon in my darkest hour. Dan Allen movies. I'm
guys,
definitely
if
not
you want to
gritting through my teeth.
Guys, if you want to have fun, go to IMDb. Look at these reviews. It's either a 1 or a 10. There's nothing in between. It's hilarious. It's just a meme. But
is there one 10 to every 10 ones?
Hey, and Jackson, if you want to do me a favor as well, why don't you watch all the Transformers in the lead up? Really get into that world. Absorb what Michael Bay's created. Get into it. Watch all the other Transformers and then sit down for 2.5 hours after watching the other 6 or however many there are. And enjoy. How does that sound?
That won't be happening.
All right, Jackson. I'm looking forward to it. What are we covering next week? What have we got for the mini? What have we got for the full?
Dan Allen movies. How about the shoes on the other foot here? You've dominated our episode on Borat Subsequent Moviefilm, so you can fill in our listeners.
I've got
on what's
no
planned
idea, mate.
for the last movie we're covering for next week. All right.
Okay.
I'll give you a
I don't
clue.
even know the. Hey, it's funny because I suggested this film for our Shudder episode, but I don't even know the title of it. What is it called?
It's another exclusive release thanks to our excellent partners at Shudder, the Netflix for horror. Shudder.com, promo code WWT for 30
Our number one
days free.
sponsor of all time, by the way. Shudder.
Number one of all time.
Incredible.
We are going to be watching one of their newest releases on their superb streaming service, The Cleansing Hour. And faithful listeners, we've got several minisodes planned. We're going to stay very hush-hush on those. Some of the latest releases that are hitting movie theaters everywhere but our state, Victoria. Dan Allen Movies, where can the listeners find us?
Oh, you're really putting this on my shoe. I've just played the wrong outro music. You'll have to forgive me for that, Jackson. Guys, you can follow us.
Can we get a rewind?
You sure can. Jackson, you can find me at Dan Allen Movies on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, each and every social media platform. You can also follow my gaming channel, Dan Allen Gaming, on all social media platforms as well. You can find Jackson Marshall on Film _ at the end on Letterboxd, Instagram, and all the other incredible social media platforms. And you can find We Watch This podcast again on all those platforms. So by the end, you'll be following us on 30 different sources, and you'll be seeing the exact same content on each single one. It's incredible. It's an incredible offering. Hey, no, it's all original stuff, guys. We really appreciate it. If you could go over to Spotify, give us a follow, and share it with a friend. We also love if you could go over to Apple and leave a review. We'll be reading out your reviews on the podcast in upcoming episodes. Thanks, guys. Jackson, any final words?
I won't be back.
He's Marshall on Film. I'm Dan on the Movies, and we are out of time. Thanks for listening.
Very nice. How much?
Wow, it's very nice.
Very nice. How much? I like you. Can we have a sexy time?